So once a couple or one part of a couple decides that they're interested in mediation and they have an initial conversation with either you or I, and then they book an appointment for their first individual meeting. Explain, Sarah, how that looks for them when they first come to our offices at Scott Bailey.
I like to think that we're really approachable and that they shouldn't be worrying about that. The whole idea of that confidential meeting is for us to have a proper discussion discreetly as to how things are for them, and that helps us as mediators to really understand what the issues are, whether or not it's suitable for mediation, because of course we assess during that first meeting as well. But they come to our offices. We are well positioned in the high street, lots of local parking. We've got very comfortable facilities. They can come in, they'll have a cup of coffee with us. Meetings normally take 45 minutes to an hour, but if it needs to take longer, we don't worry. We just need to give it the time so that everyone has the opportunity to express how they are doing and how they feel and what the issues are for them, so that we're really clear as to going into any mediations what it's about. And I think that, from that perspective, approachability, they will have had our information pack as well. They would have completed the preliminary information form so that we've got some basic information to be able to ask them questions around, and just really look after them in terms of putting them first and looking after their interests. Our role, of course, as mediators is to be entirely neutral, but that doesn't mean that we are not listening. We are there to completely actively listen as to what's going on for them and what's right for them, really.
And we like to see those initial meetings, we like to see our mediation clients in our boardroom, which is very comfortable and spacious.
Yes.
And then clients will get to know, they'll be familiar with that room when they next come in with their partner, former partner. And so it's not an unfamiliar environment. We also, during the joint mediations, don't we, Sarah, we offer a separate room because, of course, we understand that this is a very difficult process for some people and they might need a little bit of time out. So we always offer a separate room that they can sit in, just to take 5 if they need it.
And I think that's so useful to just have a break. The other sort of arrangement we have is that, of course, if it transpires that a couple would like to try mediation, but they're not comfortable for whatever reason sitting in the room with each other, then of course we offer shuttle mediation, and that will mean that the mediator, one of us, will go between the rooms. And of course we're so fortunate at Scott Bailey with our offices as well, we have separate entrances.
Yes.
So in fact a couple don't even need to arrive together, they can come separately and they won't have to meet each other. And you and I, Anne, are very careful about that to manage that in the most appropriate way. And I think again that will create some comfort that actually they can speak to us freely, and we can work to progress matters, to deal with the items on their agendas, but to do it in a way that doesn't present confrontation or extra worry or stress for them.
And that's hugely important, that they feel comfortable. And a step on from that, although it was something that we did a lot of during COVID, of course, was remote mediation, and we're quite able to do that via Zoom. And even though there may be the possibility of a client coming into the office, some clients get comfort from having the screen there, and that's one further step removed from the person that they're trying to resolve their disputes with. And also we often within a couple, which is perfectly normal and not uncommon, one will not control so much, but look after the finances, let's say. And one person will be responsible for paying the bills and the bank accounts and the bank statements. And the other person will feel a little bit financially ignorant, and they're worried when they come to mediation that will disadvantage them. So we can also offer other neutral people to come into the mediation process when it's on a joint basis. And that can be a financial expert, an independent financial advisor, a pensions expert, and they are all very familiar with the mediation process, and they are accredited to do so, aren't they, Sarah?
Absolutely.
And also family consultants as well.
Yes.
We can invite them in, can't we? Do you want to explain a little bit more about the role of a family consultant?
Yeah, I mean, there are often situations where, for whatever reason, for the history of what's happened or the particular power imbalance between a couple, or the particular emotional dynamic, that we identify that actually the support of a family consultant in the mediation process is really, really good, because it will help. It will give the mediation the best possible chance to work. And it's not therapy. That's not what the family consultant does, but they are there to help manage the emotional dynamic and support both of them actually through that process, both during the process, and sometimes there can be an agreement that they contact the family consultant outside of the mediation process as well. So again, it can be absolutely bespoke to give that couple the best opportunity for it to work and for them to make progress. And I think that's so important. And just touching on the financial aspects as well, of course, we do ask for absolute transparency, cards on the table, financial disclosure, full financial disclosure, so that in discussing, for example, the financial aspects, looking at the asset schedule that we produce, looking at how things are going to be shared and divided between a couple in the future, we need to understand every nuance of that. So that's a really important part of mediation as well. It's a big ask for the couple, for them to come to the table and really give us all of the financial information very clearly and transparently.
And I often explain to clients where, quite understandably, they're thinking, gosh, we're paying for the mediation and now we're going to pay for a financial consultant, now we're going to pay for this, that, and the other. But what it means in reality is you can have two or three very effective meetings where everybody is fully supported. There's no misunderstandings about any of the more complicated financial aspects. Whereas if they're just themselves with no support, and one of them is particularly distressed and struggling to cope with it all, you can have ineffective meetings, because we both recognise, Sarah, don't we, that a relationship breakdown is a hugely stressful situation to be in, and it compromises your thought processes, and you sometimes lose the ability to actually be able to make decisions, and we recognise that, and we offer full support all round for our clients so that they can make the best decisions, which after all are going to be ones that they'll be living with for the rest of their lives.
I agree. And also, just picking up on the cost point, you know, the alternatives, if a couple argue about matters and they seek the help of the court to make the decisions for them, the costs of that are astronomical.
They are.
And quite often prohibitive.
Yes.
So, you know, again, just thinking about the relative cost of mediation compared to other processes out there, it still remains one of the most cost-effective and cheapest processes overall.
It does.
And I think, you know, that's quite an important message, really.
And we've said before that decisions that are made by the couples themselves are far likely to be ones that they keep to, rather than being told what's going to happen by a stranger, in effect.
Again, it keeps that control with them, and in terms of, for example, child arrangements, you know, working with them on a parenting plan, thinking about that, being able to support them with legal information, I think is far better, and it has, as you say, much more chance of success, really.
Also, you and I have sort of recognised that if a couple mediate and they've got very small children, the arrangements that they might propose for those very small children will change as the children get older. And with mediation, it's quite possible to come back in and see us a year on, 2 years on. If something crops up that they're struggling to cope with as separated parents, we can sort of help them in future years if that occurs.
Absolutely. I mean, the files are retained for quite a long period of time, so we can always go back and revisit. And again, I think it's building that professional, personal relationship, which is really important. It's about them trusting us to, you know, help them and look after them, and that's exactly what we will do.
And I think it's important, that's with the children, but of course with the finances, a separating couple need finality. They need to know what their financial future looks like. So if the mediation is successful for finances, and most of them are, we produce the documentation that goes to their respective solicitors. That's then turned into a court order, and then it's final, legal and binding, and they can both get on with their financial lives.
Absolutely. And because of what we do, with, you know, the experience that we've had as family law solicitors over the years, we know exactly what needs to go into that document to make it a really thorough document, so that it avoids any confusion or issues arising between the solicitors in the future, again trying to minimise the cost for the clients.
Yes.
And I think we're very good at that because we know what needs to go into that document.
We do, Sarah.
Yeah.